We're going to go ahead and get started just to respect folks' time here. We're 3 minutes past the hour. Really appreciate your joining us today, both faculty and students. We are recording this event. I just wanted to mention that, or at least I hope we are. Hopefully you see the recording sign somewhere. And we'll make this available later. And if you have trouble finding the public version of this or the slides, please just feel free to reach out and we'll make sure to give you a link. So no need to jot down everything that's on the slides if you just want to have a look later. A couple notes sort of about the Zoom etiquette here. We're going to sort of ask folks to keep muted throughout most of this. We're going to reserve a good chunk of time towards the end of this for question and answer, but please also feel free to drop questions or comments into the chat, and we'll try to monitor the chat as we go along. I have to admit, I'm not necessarily the best at doing that while I'm talking, but we'll be trading off, and we'll try to make sure that we don't miss anything. But if we do miss a question, please feel free to raise that again in the Q&A session towards the end. I think the basic intention here is we just want to give a sense of who we are as a department and what our basic program structure is like, our basic orientation, and give you a chance, of course, to ask questions of your own. Just maybe think of this as a first conversation, because we're really happy to follow up in a lot of ways. And before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge something, which is that the University of California at Santa Barbara, the land on which we're situated, is unceded indigenous land. And we want to acknowledge the Chumash people, elders both past and present. We really do endeavor to try to carry on the legacy of coming together and growing as a community. And this event, I think, is a step in that we're hoping that you might consider Santa Barbara a community that you could be part of. So we're going to give a broad overview of the program, and we'll go into a little bit more specific in the 3 main program areas. And we're really fortunate to have a good representative from each of those program areas here today. But before that, and before anything else, in fact, I'd like to introduce our department chair, Professor Mian Wang. Mian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andy, for your kind introduction. Good morning or good afternoon to everyone. I'm just glad to see that people are really from different part of country or even different part of the world. Really welcome to our departmental open house for prospective students. So as Andy mentioned, I'm the department chair. I'm really glad to take this opportunity to provide you our brief introduction of our department and the program. Well, very much like Andy said earlier, the department is made up of people. So first of all, let me briefly talk about the people in our department, right? We have our distinguished group of faculty members, and we have 2 wonderful full-time staff, and we have our excellent, group of graduate students, and I'm going to get that just in a little bit later in the later slides. That we have about 110 students. And as a department, we do have vision and the mission in line with our school, the Gevirtz Graduate School of Education. So as it's read on the screen, you can read it yourself. It's our mission is the school and the department will be a leader in addressing pressing social justice issue through interdisciplinary collaborations grounded in education, applied psychological research, teaching, and service. Our mission are 3 fronts. First, our mission is to conduct a scholar inquiry into education applied psychology, especially into community responses to the opportunity and challenge posed by individual, economic, linguistic, and cultural diversity in our multicultural society. Secondly, we are to educate scholar researchers and scholar practitioners to address educational opportunity and challenge arising from diversity. Third, we are to develop and maintain exemplary programs that serve as models for teaching, research, and service. And as I just mentioned, Andy, can you do me a favor? Yes, thank you. As just I mentioned quickly, we have excellent students, distinguished group of faculty members. At this point, we have 26 faculty members and 110 current master and doctoral students. And in the last few years, every year we admitted about 20 new students as an incoming cohort. And this student are going to be studied in 3 broader area of study or program areas. And in this graph, as you can see in a kind of your upper right corner, it shows you the 3 broad program areas. The first is culture, language, and human development. And if you look at the arrow, it points to some of the sub program area or the sub area of studies. And it involves language, literacy, and social emotional development. It also involves community-based engagement, education, identity and agency, and multilingualism. The second broad program area is learning, teaching, and teacher education. And it consists of 4 sub-study areas. STEM education, STEM stands for science, mathematics, engineering, just got a blunt, science, technology, engineering, mathematics education, and the special education, literacy education, and teacher education. The third broad program area is the policy, program evaluation, and the research methods. And it involves the sub-study areas of management and psychometrics, evaluation theory and practice, methodologies in educational research. And in the later part of this open house, my colleagues will give you more information about each program area. They will present the faculty member in those program areas. I really want to encourage you before as you are preparing your application to our program to visit our website and particularly look into the faculty whose research interest best match up with your own interest. And here I'm particularly give example for 2 website, 2 links for our website. One is about a list of faculty research interests. It's a list of faculty member where you can find their research interest. Also, as part of our website, you can visit the faculty video section where you see 5 faculty member, with video clips introducing their research interest. So I really encourage you to visit that part of the website. Well, talking about our program, I think I have to mention about the coursework, right? That's an important part of your graduate study programs. And in our department, the courses are organized in this way. We see the courses we offer to our graduate student in 4 categories. The first is we call them pro seminars. For every graduate student, they kind of are required to take a pro seminar like ED 200 A and B over the first year of their program, and they get to really know the faculty well, get to know other students well, and then they also learn about how you need to prepare yourself for graduate study at a university. There's a lot very useful and important topic being covered in pro seminars to prepare you to get ready for your graduate studies here at UCSB. The second category course or coursework that you need to prepare for is we call them required research method courses. And they're usually a combination of both quantitative and qualitative research method courses. Really encourage you to work with your individual advisor to decide, how many courses you're going to take from each, track, right? You can take, but what we recommend is, or what is required is a 5-method course that you need to complete during your program. And look for the detailed information in the graduate student handbook. And the link is in the left corner on the slides. The core course are the core course for the entire department. So every graduate student who are admitted into a program will have to take all of these 3 core courses, which represent each broad program area, which we will give a little more information on that just in later slides. So the 3 core courses you have to take. Then you need to make a choice, and maybe in consultation with your advisor about what advanced courses you're going to take. And then in that category, we have something we call them advanced pathway courses or elective courses. So for all of these types of courses, that's, you're going to take them during your program. So you're going to fulfill the requirement on coursework. The next important piece of information about our program, I want to briefly talk about academic milestones. Yeah, for any graduate program you're involved in, there's always degree requirement or the academic milestones. Here at UCSB in education department, we expect the students during their program to complete 5 milestones. And then which are designed to build your research experience. The first one is usually your first year of study program. It's a research apprenticeship, where you choose to work with some faculty in their project. You get to know how research is conducted, and you involve in the project, get exposed to how research is developed, is designed, and is carried out. And you're not obligated to independently conduct a research project. And that leads to actually the second milestone. So when you're done your research apprenticeship, you're really starting your second year. That's why sometimes we call it a second year, a research project. But it doesn't mean you have to finish it within the second year. So that's why, officially we call it independent research project. You can kind of get advice from your advisor, and depends on the pace you're taking your program, you get the right time to complete independent research project. As the name suggests, this is a research project. You have to independently complete it, and by starting from lead review, really forming your research idea, deciding your research questions, and do the design, collecting data, analyze the data, write up the report for the result and discussion, so on and so forth. And for those master students, and this is also your master degree thesis. The third milestone we call the qualified exam, or student like to call with a short name COMPS. And this is your candidates in qualifying exam, right? In our department, we do have typically 2 ways for doing it. You can do in the 3 publishable qualitative paper, or you just, you sit for exam, but it's a kind of an open book exam. You get question ahead of time, you prepare your writing, then you come to your oral defense with the committee. So that's kind of look like a more real exam, but we do have the both options in the department for the student to choose. When you fulfill that milestone, that comes to the phase of preparing your dissertation proposal, right? Without needless to say a lot about, that's probably many years for your hard work. You come to a point, you think about the dissertation research project you're going to do, and then you propose this proposal to the committee, and the committee helps you the committee will review it and approve it. Then you have the green light to go ahead to do it, and then you spend the time to conduct and finish your dissertation. It sounds like 4 or 5 years program in a nutshell, and these are the important milestones for you to know and to accomplish during your program. Andy, if I can have, okay, so that it's kind of my brief introduction of the department and the program structure. I would really glad to invite you to visit our website and read the handbook for more information. What's next is I'm going to invite a few of my colleagues to get more in-depth information about the 3 broad program areas. Let me begin with inviting Dr. Carolyn Satin-Bajaj for introducing policy, program evaluation, and research method. Carolyn.
Thanks, Mian. Oh, Dr. Wang. We're very informal here in Santa Barbara.
Yes.
I'm Carolyn Satin-Bajaj, and I'm so pleased to get to share a little bit about our area, our program area. So PPRM, policy, program evaluation, and research methods, and really combines. Do you guys hear an echo by any chance? No, I just want to make sure Dr. Wong and I are in the same room, so I hear my lovely voice twice. So it's really looking at education policies, their design and implementation, and the experience of people in organizations like schools and institutions of higher ed. So this, if you think about it in sort of an education policy sub area, and then development and use and advancement of research methods. So the driving questions about how contexts of education are affected by education policies and how policies and practices influence organizations. That's in the policy realm. And then on the research methods, using and developing quantitative and qualitative approaches to analysis applied to education data, really thinking about with pushing the envelope, pushing the field in new methods. So across both of these sub areas, the program evaluation and intro class on program evaluation is the core course. And then do we just give us a sampling of some of the kinds of courses that are in the program area as part of your advanced pathway. So on the research methods side, courses on mixed methods or factor analysis, structural equation modeling, and constructing and validating measures. Andy represents that area, and I'm here representing the ed policy. So he's someone who could certainly speak to about what you learn in a class on constructing and validating measures. And I am someone you can talk to about like what you cover in an ed policy class that I'm teaching this spring, or an immigration and education class. On the policy side, also courses on organizational theory, organizational leadership, economics of education, and very exciting. Oh, I can't advance. Will you advance to the next slide? Is that in addition, so this is just a sense of the core faculty, but we have 2 new faculty members starting in January. So a lot of the course offerings will be updated. So Tariq Azam, Andrew Mall, Jeff Milam is our dean, but also a scholar of higher education and education policy, Karen Allen Gibson, who hopefully will join us soon and to talk about some of the funding. And then me, I'm Carolyn Satin Bajaj. But then we have 2 new faculty members who are really expanding our focus on higher ed. So Antartika Vakunda, who's a qualitative researcher of higher ed education and Black student experience in predominantly white institutions, but using a lot of critical theories. And then Mayra Puente will be joining us too, who does more work on Latinx students, college access, using GIS and a lot of other methods. So we're really excited about where we are and where we're going in this program area. I think that's it.
Thank you, Caroline. Now I'm going to invite Dr. Julie Bianchini for giving us more information about LATE. We just call it a LATE, short name, and it's a learning, teaching, and teaching education. Julie.
Yeah, so welcome everyone. I'm here representing learning, teaching, and teacher education.
You're muted.
I could hear you, Julie. Go for it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. Was my bad, Julie. I muted myself.
Okay. So anyway, my name is Julie Bianchini. I'm a professor of science education in the department, and I'm a member of the Learning, Teaching, and Teacher Education program. This is our largest program. We have kind of 4 different pathways or areas, sub areas, I guess you could say: STEM education, literacy education, special education, and teacher education. And so you can see that these different areas are themselves rather broad, and then we're all under this larger umbrella of learning, teaching, and teacher education. We have a number of faculty in this area who work and do research in our teacher education program. So we do have a teacher education program here at UCSB in the Gevirtz Graduate School of Education. It includes multiple subjects, single subject, and special education credentials. And so the faculty and students in LTTE or latte, or however you want to say it, some folks do have connections to our teacher education program. Not everyone, but some do. And other faculty have interest in cross-cultural education, in student learning, technology education. Some of our folks even do research not just in pre-K through 12, but at the undergraduate level as well. So it's a very broad program that can fit a lot of students' interests. And we offer our course called Teaching, Learning, and Teacher Education. It's not very exciting. Andy, do you want to go to the next slide? So because we have so many sub-programs and such a broad interest, we do have the largest number of faculty associated with our program. You'll see that some of these faculty overlap with faculty in other departments, other programs. So of our 3 programs, there's a number of faculty who fit into more than one program. And that just kind of reflects our department as a whole in terms of having, interdisciplinary interests across programs. We do a lot of collaboration, not only with one another inside our program, but across programs. So I counted 17 faculty involved in latte. If you could just go back to the previous slide, Andy. So we have one new faculty member who has joined our program, and I stole Diana's square. So you'll see Wei Ling Malone again in the next program area, along with Diana. And so we have one new faculty in this area. We have a number of teaching faculty in this area who take occasionally a student, but oftentimes partner with another faculty member in mentoring students. So again, there's lots of room in this program area to match students' interests related to learning, teaching, and teacher education.
Thank you very much, Julie, for your introduction about latte. And at the last but not least, we get into the 3rd program area introduced by Dr. Dana Aria. Dana, go.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me fine? Great. So this area, just as Julie said, it could be viewed in some ways as a more like a deeper focus. It makes sense if you think about it, right? We're a Department of Education, that our largest area would be involving learning and teaching, in education. You saw education being part of a lot of the names of areas of study covered within that larger program area. Some of us engage in the theorizing of development of sociocultural, various intersecting sociocultural constructs. Some of us are discourse scholars, literacy scholars. And so, that's what this area of culture, language, and human development kind of represents. And it includes topics that intersect multiple issues, especially within our increasingly digitized and multicultural, multilingual societies, and how we interact with one another. Key issues in some of the work that we cover in scholars within this area involve marginalized populations and education. So, and many of us are across the entire lifespan. My particular area is focused on interdisciplinary learning, how it's realized through literacy practices and processes. So I'm interested in how children grow into their reading selves. And I'm very much interested in a lot of unspoken issues that impact one's ability to become critical consumers of text. So that's criticality is a big part of what we study. And so I just, we have a multitude of courses, but some of the pathways involving in this area involve anthropological approaches to studying educational context, bilingual, multilingual development, immigration education, that the immigration constructs actually as policies are stated. So some of us study how policies are written and how that language shapes one experiences. And literacy assessments. I've been developing more critically informed literacy assessments as part of the work that I do for community-based literacies. That's sort of the multi-program initiative I've developed and have been leading for a number of years. But there are other programs that scholars associated with this area have led, one including skills that's led by one of our colleagues, Jinsuk Lee, and she looks at the linguistic roots of students and how the, allowing them to express their linguistic roots in school settings can empower, future college students. And so, that exploration and the benefits of doing so. And heritage language development is a big part of that. The core course for this is theories of human development. So how we come to be and know across various aspects of being a human being in society. So here is it's largely a subset. As you see, I'm a part of this, but literacy instruction is an important part as well. So I'm part of both pathways. We have Jason Duque, Richard Duran, Amy Karatzis. She does a lot of emergent literacy development. Jinsuk Lee, who I mentioned. Our new faculty member, Hui-Ling Malone, is really interested in the secondary area of students engaged in literacies. We have Rebecca Morales Rios, who focuses a lot on development of Latina development, human and socio-emotional development. Yukari Okamoto looks at she's a cognitive scientist, so how we, grow in our ways of thinking about specifically mathematic principles. Laura Romo is also associated with human development, and Mian Wang, who has been leading us, focusing on families and, associated with special education. So that this gives you a sense of who is involved in this area. And so you can look at our profiles, get a sense of what we do.
Quickly pick up on just that last point. And also I saw an excellent question in the chat that it pertained to what if there's people in different program areas that we're interested in. One thing that Mian mentioned earlier, and I just sort of want to repeat it now, because I get a lot of emails from prospective applicants saying, well, what tips do you have for preparing a good application? The biggest tip I have, I'll just tell you right now, the biggest tip I have is to really look very closely at individual faculty members and then reach out. Faculty members love it when you reach out, and establishing that kind of personal connection before submitting your application is just a great way to see if it is a good match. Now, advising situations change. One thing that may not be fully transparent from the presentation we're giving right now is that there's a lot of flexibility. We do have these organized pathways, which we tried to put a lot of thought into as kind of a template, but it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. It's not even a three-size-fits-all thing. There's lots of different ways that students progress through our program. Sometimes students have more than one advisor, and sometimes those advisors might even be in different areas. And even though we have these kind of course structures that we've planned out, again, there's a lot of flexibility. So individual students might choose to negotiate with their advisor or advisors for something different. So if you reach out to some faculty member that you think is really interesting and just say a little bit about yourself and what you're interested in, maybe you'll have sort of an informational interview over Zoom or just email exchanges. But that kind of personal connection, I think, is the biggest single thing that I would advocate for if you're considering our program. And the other quick thing I just wanted to say before I forget, just because this does come up a lot, is I was thinking about this when Julie was talking about the latte area, is that Julie mentioned the teacher education program. We do have an excellent teacher education program. That is a separate program. So this presentation that we're talking about today is a master's and PhD program in education. There's this separate program which prepares teachers, and there's a separate open house event, actually 2 open house events for that program. So if you're interested in possibly becoming a teacher, that would be the area to look at first. And sometimes we do get a little bit of confusion about that. We want to work on our messaging around that. So I did want to mention that as well. Now I know we're going to be joined any minute now by Karen Nyland Gibson. Maybe we have
Hi.
Oh, there she is. Okay, well, that's excellent timing, Karen. I'm going to hand things over to you just for a couple of minutes here.
Oh my gosh, perfect, literally perfect timing. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Nyland Gibson. I was jumping across meetings, so I appreciate your patience with me showing up late here. I am the vice chair of the department, and my responsibility or purview is the funding to support students in the best way possible with funding packages. And this includes like recruitment packages. So the phase that most of you are kind of thinking about is if I were to come to UCSB to join our program, like what kind of funding packages could I anticipate? And so this is something that we concern ourselves with and really try to do our best to support students over multiple years. And our goal is to provide multi-year packages for admitted students. And sometimes this last year, we had great success in providing multi-year packages to every single admitted student. And we're trying to converge to do that every single year. And generally, we have what we call like 2 types of funding packages. One is like a centrally administered fellowship, which is one that's given through the university. We compete with other departments on campus to get these multi-year packages. They're like a Regents Fellow. Every UC has that, a Chancellor's Fellow, and some other kind of fellowship packages. These are pretty prestigious, kind of campus-wide, UC-wide packages. We also are able to give departmental funding packages, and traditionally these range between a guaranteed funding for 2 years or 5 years. And it's really our larger goal is to provide funding. And when we say like guaranteed funding for multiple years, this includes the paying of like your tuition, meaning like your tuition and then a salary, like a monthly stipend to pay your living expenses. And so when we say fully funded, that's what we're talking about is your tuition, like fees and tuition, and then some salary to live off. We also, throughout the year, while you're a student here, provide different types of funding, travel grants to support conferences. We really want to encourage our students to go to conferences and have that experience for networking and getting out of kind of the bubble of Santa Barbara and expose yourself to a larger research community. So we try to provide travel support for students. And then as students converge on their last year, there are other opportunities for funding through a dissertation fellowships. And that includes some that are departmental packages, but also, again, these campus-wide dissertation fellowships that support you during that last year to finish your dissertation and be able to focus your energies on completing your research. Do you taking questions now or should I? Okay, great.
Yeah, that actually pretty much concludes our sort of formal presentation, and this is a great chance to ask questions. We'll maybe do the funding questions first because we want to be respectful of Karen's time because she's got to jump back to another meeting. I see one already in the chat there.
Oh, okay. So there are some resources for international students. Some of the campus-wide fellowships are not eligible because they're provided through state funds for international students. Some are, and we do provide. The campus has. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the acronym because I'm jumping. Mian, maybe you can help me. What's the tuition reimbursement?
Oh, you mean the term for the tuition waiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got blind with that term. But anyway, it's a
NRST,
yeah.
non-resident student tuition. Let me look it up. Mian, hold on. Yeah. I'm so sorry.
So it's I can explain as Karen was looking for that specific term. It's after your first year in the program, if you are hired as a TA or GSR, then you are entitled to a like an in-state tuition rate. So, and then for 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, and then you are going to do probably, if you can finish your program within 5 years, then in your last year, your 6 years, probably you have to be reassessed for out-state tuition rate. Again, if you don't have like any medical leave and other involved in that, so you lose that eligibility after your 5th year. Yeah. You found it, Karen? Okay.
It's one of them is the NRST. There is an International Doctoral Recruitment Fellowship. Again, that's a campus-wide one. But the NRST is a non-resident student tuition. Like it kind of fills the gap between what you would pay as an international student and what, and so we can provide funding packages at the level of an in-state student during years 2, 3, and 4.
To quickly add what Dr. Nellen Gibson just told you is actually for international student, you are eligible to both type of supporting package that Karen mentioned earlier. Meaning, if you have a really strong profile, you may be nominated by the faculty to the campus-wide multiple year fellowship, if that's the decision from the department, or for the departmental supporting package, you're very much like a domestic student. You're going to be offered some type of multiple year support package.
And I see a question about, are there other scholarships available? And the short answer is yes. The longer answer is yes, every single year there's different types of fellowship and scholarship students can apply to, some which are within the department, some are within our School of Education, some are campus-wide. So there are ongoing amounts of funding that you can apply for, most of which you have to be proactive in seeking. We try to support you, helping you know about them. And as faculty, we often write letters of recommendation to support that. But there definitely are, there's, like I said, there's travel grants every year that you can get to travel to conferences. So there's different sources of money, and we're trying to organize and centralize that so that students are aware of the calls. You'll definitely get emails about them, but we're trying to make sure that students are aware of all the different opportunities so they can take advantage of them.
Can I chime in with just 2 little things? Number one, very real question is about living in Santa Barbara, and something really, like my students, I have a number of students who get graduate student housing, which is the best deal in town. and also, in addition to these funds, students can and often do get TA positions either in the Department of Education, or we have an excellent reputation across campus as having some of the best grad student TAs. And so there are other ways to supplement. I know 2 of my doctoral students are resident advisors in grad student housing, so that they don't even have to pay for it. Woo! So they're in a separate from the actual funding from our department or campus-wide. There are other ways to supplement or defray the costs of living in Santa Barbara or anywhere, So TA positions and grad student housing, one of the first things I tell students once they are admitted and accept the admission offer is to get on that list for grad student housing. So you heard it here.
To just quickly add on what Karen just said, for TA opportunities, we do have our undergraduate major under review. So it's on the horizon. So if that is approved, that will increase tremendously on the TA opportunity. So just in estimate, maybe we are enabled to give every graduate student a TA as needed if the program is get launched in the near future.
What other questions do you have?
Well, feel free to unmute and speak, or you can type in your questions in the chat room.
I'm just going to drop my own email address here in the chat. I mean, I think you can reach out to any of us. I don't mean to speak for all my colleagues. I think you can reach out to any of us though. But if in doubt, you can send me an email and I can either answer it myself or I can route it as appropriate. And that's always welcome. You know, if things occur to you later, if you just want to follow up on something, please do feel free to reach out anytime. But that said, again, more questions now, please.
We have a question about admission requirements. So maybe I can start and then people can build on that. There is a process. There's a, you'll get online. There will be a couple of statements that you'll need to include in addition to transcripts of previous institutions that you've been to for your undergraduate, master's, if you're applying for the PhD program. In some of these statements, we like to know what kind of research experience, if any, that you have, but that's not a requirement to have had any research experience prior to coming to our school. But it's a chance for us to get to know you, what you're passionate about, what you're curious about, and who you might think that you would like to work with and learn with. And notice that I say with and not for or under. We really see ourselves as learning with you as we're guiding those of us who would be your advisor, would guide you through the process. So there's one, I think we want to know about your stance on diversity. I believe also a statement of purpose. And we do ask for letters of recommendation to get a sense of as a part of the whole package that you would provide. And those are on the website link, I believe. And Andy, maybe you could just share that in the chat. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, just picking up on that last thing, on the web page, there's a page for prospective students, and there's a Q&A section which goes over a lot of the more detailed requirements. I mean, I'm really glad to hear that sort of high-level summary. But if you're curious about things like, oh, do I need TOEFL scores, or that kind of thing, there's some sort of formal things laid out there. And just incidentally, by the way, we don't require or even accept GRE scores, so that is not part of our admissions procedure. I'll get the link, but I do see a raised hand.
Thank you, Professor Moll. And I was gonna ask how much knowledge in the quantitative and qualitative methods or experience in that you require for the areas, especially for the policy leadership and research methods. Yeah.
Great question. I can start, but my colleagues can join me in answering that one. In a sense, it might even be advisor specific and sort of dependent on exactly what you want to study. Broadly speaking, we don't really have strong requirements for knowledge coming in because we have, as Mian was mentioning earlier, we have a robust set of courses in both qualitative and quantitative methods, which start from the very foundations and sort of move into more advanced territory. If you wanted to specifically come to study research methods, then I would suggest reaching out to a prospective advisor to get a little bit more of a sense of what that advisor is interested in and what kind of background knowledge they might expect. Broadly, I think there's a lot of flexibility, but again, individual advisors are at their own discretion to decide how to negotiate that. Do any of my colleagues want to chime in on that one?
Well, I just could say in the sense that some of the methodologies that are coming out, and especially with those with an ethnographic base, some of them are relatively new, and there are also ways of knowing that are non-traditional that we are reaching to support. I have a number of students doing so many different things. I've advised students who have more of a quantitative background. And so what I tend to do is explore ways to have an ethnographic grounding as they're engaged in various quantitative approaches. And also I have students who are engaged in critical discourse analysis. I have students who are engaged with critical approaches like more native methodologies. And so we support an array in the diversity of ways of knowing. And that's something that our campus is growing to be committed towards. So you don't have to have a knowledge base in any of these, as Andy said, depending on the faculty member. But the whole idea is that we're supporting you at each step of your journey. And so you may be ready for certain experiences in program support. And so that's for us to provide you with those opportunities.
I'm seeing 2 more hands. So Andrew, you want to go next?
Yes, hi everyone. So my question is that I noticed that there are a couple of faculty members that are listed on the program's website, but when I go to the application website, they're not listed under there. So is there not an opportunity to work with these faculty members at the moment?
I'll chime in here. I think it might be specific to the individual. And if in doubt, you can reach out to me and I'll make sure. Now, one main reason for that could be that a faculty member is simply not taking on students for whatever reason next year. The main reasons for that would either be that a person is on sabbatical or that they're within a couple of years of retirement and are choosing not to take on additional advisees at this time. But that said, please do check. And if in doubt, feel free to reach out and I'll verify that. So there's no doubt about it.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Andrew, Andy, I want to quickly add also the other factor is, as I was reviewing yesterday, some portion of the website, I realized we are updating the website. So there are glitches in terms of like information should be there, not yet. So that's another factor I want to make sure we'll take care of it pretty quickly. Yeah, but Andy's point is right on that. Most likely that's the reason they're not listed.
And just to chime in one more, because I was a new faculty member at the start of an admission cycle, and I wasn't on the application form, but don't worry, I looked through every application, and if there are students who either their work was interesting to me or seemed aligned, and I was like, why am I not listed? I reached out, so we will find you if the match seems like it. So that's a great way to indicate your interest. That doesn't mean the faculty won't say, oh, hey, wait, like we seem like a good fit. But if you do notice something, it's always helpful because, there are a lot of applications to say, hey, I couldn't check Dr. Satin Bajaj, but I really want to work with her. So.
Thanks, Carolyn. We have another hands up. Jia, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Professor. I would like to ask, how many classes do we need to take for each semester, and how long does the whole PhD program takes? And then I would like to know, for how many classes we need to take before we start our dissertation.
Andy, you want to give a try or?
Yeah, I was testing my memory. So the most sort of thorough and detailed answer to your question will be found in the grad student handbook, which we linked earlier, and the web page that we just put in the chat will have a link to that as well. If you can't find it, shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. And in that grad student handbook, you'll see the so-called degree sheets. When you heard the presentations from Carolyn and Julie and Diana earlier, you heard a little bit about the course pathways for each area. Now, I don't know the exact number of courses just off the top of my head, but typically speaking, I think students take 3 classes per quarter for a couple years, and that's more or less the bulk of the actual requirements in my sense. Now, a lot of students take additional courses beyond that. So, I mean, there's what's strictly required, and then there's what people wind up actually taking. But that's sort of like 2 full years of courses is what I would kind of say as a kind of a baseline, and then maybe additional courses sort of as needed. Now, that is also a conversation to have with individual advisors, because often individual advisors will advocate for more courses in a specific area, above and beyond what's just sort of like the formal baseline requirements. Maybe any of my colleagues want to sort of chime in and help me. Okay.
Well, I just would love to state that any additional suggestions that an advisor would have would be focused on supporting you in your curiosities and what you're passionate about. So for example, let's say, you decide, one of my students decides they want to understand how classroom talk can support one's socio-emotional well-being. Well, it's important, if that's a study, to really understand what existing literature is out there. And I would first be looking for specific courses that would be relevant to that question, and so maybe part of the methodological set of courses, talk, that means maybe I would encourage the student to take discourse analysis, or maybe the student's really interested in seeing the impacts of policies, the way policies are written and how they impact schools and the way they operate. Well, that policies are written, and maybe textual analysis would be an important class to take. Textual analysis is not necessarily a required course, but again, the whole point of getting a PhD is for you to contribute at the end of the day some new research that's that you can build on throughout your careers, regardless of what you end up doing outside this program. But that's our hope, is to help you along your journey that doesn't end with a degree here. That's just almost a beginning start to another journey where you would contribute to scholarship in various ways. So that's the reason why there's that flexibility in the kinds of courses that one might take, and the number of courses.
I'd also say, if you come in with a master's and have extensive training in a certain area, there are ways, like that, in line with what Diana said, the whole point is to help you on your individual path to becoming the most successful, innovative, passionate researcher we can help you become. And so if you take an intro stats as an undergrad and as a master's student somewhere else, despite how wonderful our intro stats professors are, and they are, we want to make sure you're getting the most out of all the things that we have to offer here. And so we adapt and have ways to deal with that. And I do want to say, the new faculty member in the green square has joined us.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, if I could add just a little bit, I know the question, I believe it's Nancy, right? You were asking about, you use the example master program. So yeah, I agree with my colleagues about, don't only look at the requirement of coursework, really, particularly for doctoral students, focus on how your research experience is being really nurtured and then enhanced. So, but for masters, right, we do have another 2 tracks. So really read a handbook carefully. For the professional track, it's I give an example. It's really 9 courses. That's the requirement you have to take during the program. Then the one required is the method course. You take 1 required method course. Then you still need to take 3 core courses. So those are the required. And then you need to take a advanced pathway plus elective. So I'm just using that as an example to illustrate, look into the categories of courses, right? The core course all required to master and doctoral student. Then there are required method course. But again, you can get advice from your advisor about which specific research method course you can take. And then each program area, sub-program area would have a recommended list of advanced pathway courses. You're gonna, for doctoral student, you're gonna take a few, but again, there's no fixed list of courses. You work with your advisor and to decide what advanced pathway courses you need to take. Lily, you have additional questions? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Professor Wang. So I guess my last question is about not only this program, but
or maybe we will let Thelma.
Oh, she was asking. Go ahead.
She was asking, Mian. Yeah.
Okay. I guess Professor Wan maybe muted again himself, but so I guess so I guess my question is about maybe PhD like experience in general. So I wonder, how would the co-authorship between student and professor being built? For example, is it mainly based on faculty advisor and advisee relationship, or would we in the program have the chances to co-author with another professor, you know, who is not our faculty advisor? So that's my question.
Well, I co-author with a number of students. I've been doing that for a while, and I actually co-author with one of Julie's students, and I've co-authored with one of Andy's students. So I actually, and I'm sorry, Dr. Bianchini and Dr. Mall's students. So there isn't a requirement that you have to co-author with your advisor. But I can say that many of us work hard to include our students as co-authors, because it's a really important part of the practice of developing our scholarship. So I know that this is common across all of our colleagues, and I welcome other colleagues to comment on that. But I do have a number of publications that are co-authored with many students, and including undergraduate students.
Just want to note, since we are at the hour, I mean, I can stick around. I think a bunch of us probably can stick around, but do feel free, of course, to excuse yourself if you'd like to. I saw Nancy had a question.
Hello, thank you everybody for your presentation. And I was going to the website that Dr. Mao gave to me about admission requirements. Looks like the website is indeed in update, because I couldn't find by myself earlier. And then I'm looking into profile that of the faculty that I have trouble to access. But even with the website that Dr. Mao gave to me, I still cannot see the faculty profile. Is it some problem is my end, or it's a website updating? So I really want to looking into each professor's profile to find my research match, and I couldn't access.
Well, you know what? We appreciate that. Mian, I'm wondering if, because George Yatchison is in the process of updating our entire site, especially our website with our photos and all of that.
I'm working, okay, checked. Yeah, the professor profile page, I think is working, but I'll double check. You're right, then it's George is working on updating certain part of the website. But Nancy, feel free to email me Andy. We'll double check after this meeting. I checked yesterday, I thought it's working. Yeah.
It should be, yeah. Yeah, there's two links in the chat now that hopefully are working for you. Maybe you could click and see. They should be working.
I think the one that Andy sent, the professor profile is still not working for me. So I might need to ask Andy later for help. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, email us for follow up with us. We will send you maybe the right link. I believe, Thelma, you have your hands up early on. Do you still want to ask some questions?
No, it was a thumbs up. Thank you.
Thanks. And then Yuji, you're next.
Hi, I have two questions. The first one is a quick one. Is that when can we know the admission result? And the second one is, as PhD students, do we have opportunities to work with like local schools, and do we have opportunities to work in a real K-12 classroom and observe the students and teachers? Thank you. That's my questions.
Yeah. Who wants to address Yuji's question? So I think almost all of us do, I would call it field-based work, meaning we work with local schools and community very closely. So for my work, I do work with teachers And my work focuses on students with special needs, with disability. Definitely, we need to go to school to work with them. Sometimes in family situation, in family setting, but a lot of time in school setting. So that's kind of your second question. Does anyone want to add about each two questions?
So, oh, go ahead.
I think the one question was, when do you hear? I think we have like a later deadline of April 15th. Andy probably knows that better, but usually faculty, if they choose to admit you, they might reach out to you to, informally say you've been admitted to our program, and then you'll get a formal letter of admission. It's kind of on a rolling basis in terms of when those formal letters from the university come out. Is that right, Andy?
Yeah, I think typically in February or March, you'd be hearing, and you can always reach out if you want an update, but unfortunately we don't have a strict single time to give you.
Yeah, we usually organize another admin day, typically in the late February or early March. So that's kind of a good timeline where you really learn your admission. Yeah.
Well, since we have taken up the full hour, I just want to say once again, if you have additional questions, please do reach out. We really do want to hear from you and maintain a dialogue. It means a lot to us that you chose to show up. We love seeing prospective student faces and hope to see you again sometime very soon. Thanks.
Andy, a quick question. Andy, a quick question.
Yeah.
Someone asked about having a copy of this presentation. Do you already share that?
Yeah. Please send me an email. I just dropped my email there in the chat again, and I will send a link as soon as this is uploaded.